things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever home. Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Rip'n Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Rip'n Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is Jojo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Rip'n Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to DarkWolf's Den.
The DarkWolf's Den Show on Rip'n Common Sense Radio.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret cave, hidden deep within the wilderness. This is the DarkWolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live from a secret cave hidden deep within the wilderness of Tennessee. That's right, we're ripping through the electromagnetic soup, we're tearing through the atmosphere, and we're tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the DarkWolf's Den Show for Thursday, November 11th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of a reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Freedom of Flame Series, Episode 3, The Bill of Rights. And do you know your Bill of Rights, ladies and gentlemen? Put a 1 in the chat room if you know the rights that you have. 2 in the chat room if you do not know your Bill of Rights. 3 in the chat room if you've never even heard of it before. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be discussing the Bill of Rights tonight, like I said, and an amazing story that almost wasn't. It's hard to imagine not having the Bill of Rights, but it almost was not even included in what we know as the modern-day Constitution of the United States of America. Something else we're eventually going to get to. And then in the second half of the show, we are going to read the entire Bill of Rights that every American is afforded, ladies and gentlemen. But before we do get deep into the show and get started down this rabbit hole, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I need to go ahead and give a quick shout out to both our Riffin' Rabbit Hole and our Dark Wolf's Den Show chat rooms over here. How are you guys doing over here tonight? I am glad to see such an amazing turnout so far. We have Albert Yarder over here checking in. JoJo's at the top waving in, saying, "Thank you for your service, my fellow veterans. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. It is an absolute honor to be able to do a show, especially a show like this, on Veterans Day." Our top heads off and full-hearted, wholehearted salutes to all of our veterans listening around the world. We are absolutely honored to have you here. Alva Yarder once again saying hello. Sandy B, thank you veterans for your service. I wholeheartedly agree. Terry Taggart, to every single veteran out there, thank you for your service. Agreed, Terry Taggart. Maggie's Ace saying hi. Hi, Maggie's Ace. Glad to have you over in the Rippin' Rabbit Hole chat room with Mr. Rippin' Rabbit himself. Mr. AJ checking in said gave me chills. I tell you what, the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star Spangled Banner does every single time looking at that flag. Helen Sky Gazer the Frosty. Hey, Rippin' Rabbit Hole and WDW Show with a heart. Glad to see you, Helen. And I know an odd time for you to be awake. We're glad that you are. Errol Taylor checking in says, hi, everybody. Hi, Errol Taylor. We're glad to have you here. That's all over in the Rippin' Rabbit Hole chat room. Over in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room, shout out to Michael Fontaine, the first one in the chat room. He got his comment in actually last night when I made the show and put it up on the YouTube. He said, we aren't talking Clintons either, LOL. Happy Veterans Day to my brothers and sisters, says Michael Fontaine. Again, JoJo's checking in over in the Dark Wolf's Den Show channel, Modden over there for us. We appreciate you so much, Modden. Helen Stargazer hopping over to the Dark Wolf's Den Show channel. Also, glad to see every last one of you guys here with us tonight for this very special episode. And we had ones coming in from AJ the Rippin' Rabbit, says he knows his rights. Errol Taylor with the ones that definitely know their rights. Alva Yarder says, oh yeah, we know what all our rights are. I hope you guys are sure when we go through this later on that you guys are sure you are aware of all of them, because you may be surprised. JoJo's says, one, I absolutely know all my rights. Just learn, she says. We got Helen Skygazer over here with a 3. We got a cat trying to get out of a glass door. That is the sound you hear behind me here. I know, strange as it may be. Michael Fontaine, 1 to 2. I don't remember them all, so coming in honestly with a 1 to a 2 there, Michael Fontaine. And JoJo's especially right, number 1. And whether you are listening over on the YouTube chat rooms or whether you are listening on the radio worldwide, we're glad to have every last one of you guys along for the ride, especially for something as important as the Freedom Flame series. As you guys know, the Freedom Flame burns brightly in Ripon, Wisconsin, and right here also on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, and we try to keep it alive every chance that we get. But once again, before we dig into the Bill of Rights, ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 more fun little segments to do. The first of which we call Today in History. And this is actually one specifically for my daughter. She is very much an artist, and one of her favorite artists is Van Gogh. And on this day in 1987, Van Gogh's irises sold for a record $53.6 million at auction. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was on this day in 1987, 11/11/1987. And that is today's segment of Today in History. That is an insane amount of money. That sounds about like the same amount of money that they spend on toilet seats, right? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our next segment tonight. The segment which we call... Say what? Thank you, Stewie. Tonight's quote of the day today, ladies and gentlemen, comes from Jesse Ventura. He says, and I quote, "I love my country, not my government." End quote. Once again, that is Jesse Ventura, and I could not agree more. And that is today's segment of Say What? And I think most of us can agree in today's day and age that we do not love nor trust our government, right? Our country, yes. Our government, no. And the reason for that is they've forgotten some of the founding fathers' ideas when they created this country. As a matter of fact, they pretty much shredded some of those ideas. But what created this country was the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. But it's not like these things were just signed up or drawn up and agreed upon and signed off on just, in a couple of days. It was actually a very, very hard fought battle to get the Constitution to begin with, let alone the Bill of Rights, a story which you may have never heard before.
The Bill of Rights was actually the result of a hard-fought compromise to save the Constitution. It became a bitter political struggle, yet out of that fight came one of the most principled governing documents the world had ever seen. On one side, the Federalists. They believed in strong national government that would have power over the states.
And the Federalists, as well-intentioned as they may have been, believed in big government being able to run more and more parts of your life.
The federal government is going to be able to protect us against the British and against other European powers, but they'll also protect us against the small-mindedness of state governments and make sure that the states don't do unfair things to individuals.
And they included some of the best-known leaders of the day: General George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison.
So if that's the type of government you believe in, you would be more of a federalist, whereas I am considering myself more of an anti-federalist.
On the other side, the anti-federalists. They included Thomas Jefferson, George Mason, and Patrick Henry. They believed in strong local government, that the states should have most of the power. See, back then people didn't fly places or have satellite TV. To them, their state was their country.
Of course, we have to remember it was a completely different world. a world before modern conveniences, when news didn't travel near as fast as it does today, and things moved at a much different pace. You had to write stuff down and had to move it across the country and travel and actually go and deliver things back in those days. So understand that most people didn't travel outside of their local areas. They weren't traveling to Washington, D.C. all the time, or even usually out of their state, if their city even.
Among the Anti-Federalists were most Americans who had lived through the Revolutionary War.
The Bill of Rights is a product of the American Revolution.
Americans had fought a war, arguing that their rights as Englishmen had been taken away. It is that the king had become a tyrant. And so the idea of rights was very much on their mind.
As it very well should have been, and still should be very much today on the mind of every American, knowing what rights we are granted as American citizens.
The men who signed the Declaration of Independence, asserting that all men were born with unalienable rights that no government or king could take away.
Hello, Carol's Cookies stopping in on the DarkWolf's Den Show site. Said we were talking about you in Creepy Little Book last night. Well, I hope all good. Captain Crunch's Electric Waistband. I gotta say, I kind of like that name there. Errol Taylor said, quoting George W. Bush, "The Constitution is just a piece of paper." Clearly, that particular politician has no idea what the Constitution actually meant either. Unfortunately, that seems to be what happens to a lot of them, right?
Those men were fugitives from the British Crown who would be executed if caught.
I think that is a very, very important part of the story. They were very, very much taking a risk. They were considered traitors by England. They were terrorists by today's standards. So remember, standing up for your rights may not be as easy as proclaiming your rights. You may actually be labeled as a threat to the government if you do such, which is okay in my opinion, but I do not condone things of such nature.
Washington, Hamilton, and many of the men who were leaders of the new nation starved, froze, lost limbs and fortunes, and risked their own lives for this moment.
That is why their sacrifices are so important, especially in this day and age. They sacrificed life and limb against tyranny in order to form a free country, as the United States of America is supposed to be.
Their feeling was we just threw off the yoke of tyranny after 8 years of bloodshed. We are now not going to create a new government that is going to tyrannize us all over again.
Like the government that has tried to creep and steal its way into power that we're dealing with right now. The coup de goofy over there running the White House is really not doing a great job, and he's becoming more and more tyrannical every day. And remember, we fought a tyrannical government already and won, so we are 1-0 so far. The purpose of a Constitution and the Bill of Rights is so that the government could not become tyrannical. But once again, at this point, the Bill of Rights has not been created.
What was that war about? Well, that war was about self-determination, and it was about guaranteeing that no one would ever take your rights away again.
I'm going to go ahead and repeat that because that was very important. The American Revolution, the war that America had fought to create America, was about guaranteeing that nobody would ever be able to take your rights away again. Even though the tyrannical government we're looking at has decided they want to attempt such, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights says that they cannot legally do this.
Everyone believed those rights should be protected, but how? No one wanted another king, but holding 13 states together was proving to be impossible with a weak central government. Remember, they already had the Articles of Confederation, and it was a disaster. So when the framers met in Philadelphia, that was their second attempt. at a constitution, and they might never have agreed to one had it not been for James Madison.
James Madison is often referred to as the father of the Constitution.
He had a tremendous understanding of all the forces at work and was one of the people who was really navigating through all the cross currents to enable everybody to get together and really form a government.
And Madison is definitely a character that we could do a whole show on, but he is absolutely instrumental in pulling together what has become the founding documents of this country.
Madison came to Philadelphia in May of 1787 with a plan for a strong national government that, after 4 grueling months of heated arguments and compromises, essentially became the Constitution we know today.
Again, we will eventually on the Freedom Flame series be going over the entire Constitution of the United States of America, but we are once again starting with the Bill of Rights. And these guys have been hammering out this Constitution for quite a while, arguing with each other and full felt arguments and really what they believe is right for the country. And then it happens.
By September, the men were exhausted and absolutely ready to go home.
Then George Mason stands up.
George Mason was a delegate from Madison's Virginia, and he was about to start a huge fight.
George Mason says we ought to have a Bill of Rights.
We have fought this long, bloody, brutal war, and we are now going to create this new federal government. And where is freedom of speech and freedom of the press and right to a fair trial? And he said something that was shocking to people. He said, I would rather cut off my right hand than sign the Constitution as it is currently written.
Everyone in the room understood Mason's desire to protect those rights, but they voted him down anyway.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The whole idea of the Bill of Rights was originally completely voted down as a non-starter.
I think it's really hard to think of the Bill of Rights as something that not only isn't necessary, but maybe is a bad thing, right? How can rights be bad?
A really good question with a really unexpected answer.
Believe it or not, at that moment, most of them thought that spelling out certain rights, or what we call enumerating them, was a bad idea, and they didn't want to spend another month in Philadelphia trying. Which rights do you choose to protect? And if you leave out certain rights, does that mean that the government can trample them? Or that the people won't have them because they weren't on the list?
Which are all absolutely valid questions. It's one of those could it be a good idea gone bad situations. As well-meaning as it is, could we be creating a trap for ourselves?
Madison is opposed to a Bill of Rights in the Constitutional Convention. He can't understand what the point of it is. He says, look, we've written a Constitution that spells out very clearly what the government can do.
Heck, guys, we've already got the Constitution. What do we need to rewrite it for with the Bill of Rights? What is the point? We already wrote all that down, remember? And besides, most states at that time already had their individual Bill of Rights opposed to a federal Bill of Rights. So, according to Madison, there was no need or point of it.
In the end, the framers signed a constitution that had no Bill of Rights, thinking that was the right thing to do.
George Washington has endorsed it, Ben Franklin has endorsed it, but it's not law in any way, shape, or form. It's just a plan. And what happens over the next year is that plan is going to be debated in every state, up and down the continent.
Remember, for the Constitution to become law, all the states also had to agree to it and sign off on it.
The new Constitution had to be ratified by the states, and it became clear almost immediately that the Federalists had a big problem.
Once people got to see the new Constitution, as it started to appear in newspapers, people asked,
what protection does your Constitution offer for the people's liberties?
Yes. Where is the Bill of Rights?
And the Federalists realized that they had badly miscalculated.
This is one reason why it is such a travesty when our liberties get trampled on like our current government is doing, because these people fought and argued for years in order to try to create ways in such that this would not occur.
The Bill of Rights was adopted because Thomas Jefferson and others said, we won't support the Constitution unless it makes very clear that there are certain rights that the government can't take away.
And that is the biggest takeaway I want everyone to get from this episode. Certain rights that the government cannot take away.
There was major opposition to the Constitution in Virginia, led especially by Patrick Henry, who was an ardent champion of states' rights.
You might remember Patrick Henry from the Revolution.
Give me liberty! Oh, give me death!
Now, when you have someone who's going to put up this much of a fuss, you're probably going to make concessions.
Madison and other supporters of the Constitution could only win Virginia's support for ratification by promising a Bill of Rights.
And here's the thing. Madison kept his promise.
Something that pretty much every politician has forgotten how to do nowadays, and that is keep their actual promises. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, at one time in this country, that was a thing.
James Madison won election to the very first Congress.
New York City was chosen to be the nation's capital,
where he almost immediately proposed a Bill of Rights. After years of work to write and then ratify the Constitution, Madison turns right around to amend it.
Madison had begun to realize how big the government had already become and how easily it was for them to trample on the people, and realized the monster that he created and had to find a way to fix it. The Bill of Rights being one of these ways that may actually, has to this day attempted to try to fix that issue of the government overreaching its bounds.
Now, to amend the Constitution, he's got to get 2/3 of the House of Representatives to say yes, then 2/3 of the Senate, and then go back to the states all over again to get 3/4 of them to approve. The same states that had just proposed some 200 amendments.
Could you imagine 200 amendments that you had to whittle through and narrow down into a smaller list that all of the states at the time would actually agree to, that all of the people, we the people, would actually agree to all of them? That I would not have wanted to be him in that position at that time.
Madison reads through them, writes some of his own, and submits 19 to Congress.
Madison chose the amendments that he did because he wanted to protect individual rights and not damage the Constitution. Many of the suggested amendments would have made structural changes.
Here's where Madison being wily and a nationalist is really important. A lot of the suggestions for the Bill of Rights were not about what we consider our rights, individual liberties. A lot of what the Anti-Federalists wanted was to weaken the national government.
Madison was not going to let that happen. But he also had to find amendments everyone could agree upon, because if he couldn't get the Bill of Rights ratified, the states might call a second constitutional convention.
A right that the states still retain through the Constitution to this day, and is being called for in the Convention of States. If you're interested in that, do look up the conventionofstates.org or follow my link in the description.
And what Madison said to his colleagues is a second convention. It's going to redo this Constitution. It's going to be a disaster, and the nation's very survival is at stake.
And he says, I'm not going to put any of those things in the Bill of Rights. I'm going to make sure the Bill of Rights is just about personal liberties. He saves the Constitution.
So instead of trying to weaken the government like the Anti-Federalist wanted to do, which I can't say was a bad idea, the idea that James Madison instead wanted to ensure everybody's single individual personal liberties. That goes to show how important these Bill of Rights absolutely are to every single American.
Madison's amendments protect individual rights, not only from the new federal government, but also from popular majorities who might use their power to abuse the minority. He addresses his own earlier concerns about enumerating rights, and he even tries to take on the power of the states. In the end, the first Congress reworks and passes only 12 of Madison's 19 amendments. The Senate was not ready to take on the power of the states. That didn't happen until 77 years later.
Madison wasn't able to sell that idea successfully to the first Congress, and so that idea doesn't become really a deep part of our Constitution until after the Civil War.
What is remarkable about the Bill of Rights is that they are written in plain language.
And make no mistake, that is not by accident that they are written in plain everyday language and not written in the extensive legalese that is the doublespeak and confusion that a lot of government documents are usually written in. These were written in the most basic, clear language that they could find.
The most important thing to the framers was that this was a document for the people. There was a real push to have the people, folks that lived in this country, understand and be able to participate in their own democracy.
The Bill of Rights came from the people. It wasn't something hatched in the mind of one person, James Madison or anyone else. It came from a national conversation. It's written in very crisp, compact language so that ordinary people could actually memorize it, the same way that people at the time memorized scripture passages or memorized a favorite song. It's supposed to get into your head. It's not written in legalese precisely because it's a text from the people, for the people, addressed to the people.
And the people responded. Madison's work creates a document that is ratified much more easily than the Constitution just 2 years before. But the states whittled the 12 amendments passed by Congress down to 10. The first 2 amendments don't make it, one about expanding the House of Representatives and the other about congressional salaries. As a result, what was Madison's third amendment becomes what we know today as the First Amendment. And those 10 amendments are what we know as the Bill of Rights.
One incredible story of the creation of such an incredibly important document. But ladies and gentlemen, my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. You're listening to the DarkWolf's Den Radio Show, Freedom Flame series, The Bill of Rights, exclusively on Ripin Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripin Rabbit Hole. We will be right back with the second half of the DarkWolf's Den Show, where we will be reading through the Bill of Rights right after these messages. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Oh, yeah, you're hanging with Jerry Hicks and the DarkWolf's Den Show on a Thursday night. Hi, everyone. It's AJ, the Rippin' Rabbit. Are you enjoying tonight's episode of Freedom Flame series, Bill of Rights? I know I am. If you are and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best of common sense radio, the Ripin' Rabbit Hole. I'll return again tomorrow night with another journey deep down the rabbit hole in the interest of transparency. Come along with me Friday, November 12th. Starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. We're going to explore what it takes, what it really means to be transparent, and how certain organizations, entities, and even local governments, school districts, and healthcare in 2021 more than ever need to be transparent. And if they're not, ought to be held accountable. That's Friday, November 12th. Starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as all shows do here on Rip and Common Sense Radio. Then Saturday night, come along with us as we look at the art of not giving up, not quitting, not giving in, and persevering till the very, very end. That's Saturday, November 13th. I can't wait. It's going to be a great weekend ahead, and we'll end out that weekend right together with you on Sunday night. A look at preserving history and what is the importance of historic preservation at every level. Tune in Sunday night, November 14th at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and find out. An incredible lineup of content this weekend for you. The most extended weekends in radio. If you haven't done so already, please hop on over to our website, ripinrabbithole.com. That's RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. Sign up for your exclusive backstage VIP pass. Absolutely free to do so. Always will be. It's going to give you unfiltered access down the rabbit hole to our privatized social media network. We're not a big tech company, folks. We are a community-generated press. Always have been, always will be. And you can be a part of that community. So jump on over to ripinrabbithole.com and sign up today. We'll return to tonight's topic, a Freedom Flame series, Bill of Rights, for the Darkwolf's Den Show with your host, Jerry Hicks, for Thursday, November 11th, 2021. You're listening to the Rip and Common Sense Radio Network, the Rip and Rabbit Hole.
This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Rippin' Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to DarkWolf's Den.
The DarkWolf's Den Show on Rippin' Common Sense Radio.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Darkwolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Darkwolf's Den Radio Show Freedom Flame Series, Episode 3, The Bill of Rights. This is November 11th, 2021, also known as Veterans Day here in the USA, and top hats off and huge shout out to every veteran out there listening to this show. Your service to this country is sincerely appreciated. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The soldiers, as you know, one thing they do is they take an oath to the Constitution. They stand up for the Constitution, for the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence, of course. And the Bill of Rights, of course, is something that we are discussing tonight. We heard in the first half how the Bill of Rights almost wasn't, right? And it's only thanks to James Madison and some quick thinking that the Bill of Rights, and George Mason, of course, that the Bill of Rights actually became a thing. But do you know the Bill of Rights? Do you know what these soldiers are out here fighting for all the time? Do you know your rights and freedoms in this country? A lot of people hear bits and pieces, but even myself, I did not know the Bill of Rights word for word. And it's something that we don't hear really repeated correctly after school, right? It's not something that we really focus on, but in this day and age, it's time that we are reminded what our rights are in the Bill of Rights, the rights that the government has no ability whatsoever to stop us from having. And that's what we're going to do right now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to read the Bill of Rights together. It starts out, Congress of the United States begun and held at the city of New York, which at the time was the capital of the USA, on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The conventions of a number of the states, having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the beneficial ends of the institution. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of the several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States, all or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of the said legislators, so the states' legislatures, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution. The Constitution we know today as the Constitution of the United States, of course. Articles in addition to and the amendment of the Constitution of the United States proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislatures of the several states pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution, an article we will go over on this show eventually. That article covers the convention of states that started this ratification process of this Bill of Rights. Back to the reading. Article the first. After the first enumeration required by the first article of the Constitution, there shall be one representative for every 30,000, until the number shall amount to 100, after which the proportion shall be so regulated by Congress that there shall be not less than 100 representatives, nor less than one representative for every 40,000 persons, until the number of representatives shall amount to 200. After which the proportion shall be so regulated by Congress that there shall not be less than 200 representatives, nor more than one representative for every 50,000 persons. So that is Article 1 of the Bill of Rights. Article 2, or Article the 2nd, as it says here. No law varying the compensation for the services of senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have been intervened. So they cannot give themselves a raise until the new group comes in. Article the 3rd. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So stopping to break that down just really quickly. They cannot tell you you have a national religion that you must be. You cannot be forced to be Christian, Muslim, or any other religion in the world. Even the Pastafarian Flying Spaghetti Monster religion qualifies here. But you've got the right also to have religions such as the Pastafarian Spaghetti Monster religion. They cannot prohibit your free exercise of your religious status, your religious rituals, whatever they may be. The Christians going to church, the Muslims going to the mosque, and the Wiccans having rituals in the middle of the woods. They cannot say that is unconstitutional, or you cannot do that, because you have the right in the Bill of Rights to do that very thing, to have your own religion, your own freedom of choice of religion, and the ability to start your own if you would like to, right? Next on this same article, after it speaks of freedom of religion, it says, or abridging the freedom of speech shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So once again, just to put that into modern day English, the government cannot make any law that stomps on, stops, or in any way diminishes your freedom of speech or the freedom of the press, as we are press here on Rippin' Common Sense Radio. So the press has the freedom to print what they would like, freedom of speech, freedom of press, and the right of the people to peaceably assemble, to come together peaceably, not destroy the entire cities like they did in 2020. That was not peaceably assembling at all. even though the fake media tried to tell you that it was. And we have the right to petition our government for a redress of grievances. They can't just tell us what to do and us bend over and say, yes, master. That's not the way it works in this country. That is one of the reasons for this Bill of Rights, to regulate what the government can do. Article the 4th, returning to our document here, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This does not specify a pistol, a shotgun, a AK-47, or any other. It says the right to keep and bear arms. The founders knew that over time things would change, things would get better, things would come out that were more equipped and able to do more in way of firepower, for instance. The ability for the people to have these arms shall not be infringed. And we'll find when we get into the Constitution that the reason that we have these arms is not for deer hunting. It is for taking down tyrants that would take over our government. That is another right that we have. Once again, we are going to get much further into this as this series continues. Once again, returning to our document, Article the 5th. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. This is why the government cannot come in and tell you you have to have soldiers in your house. You have to give them a living in your house because the government said so. That is something that did happen in England, and they are not allowed to do that at all. Of course, we don't have that issue in this country, thank God, but that is one right we have, is the right to have our own domain to ourselves. They cannot be stationed in your house without the owner's permission. Article the 6th. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. You shall not as a government entity just walk into my home or go into my car or go into my personal effects and start rummaging through my stuff. I've got the right to be secure in my stuff. No warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So it has to be extremely specific. If they do have a warrant out on you, they have to have probable cause. It has to be supported by oath, and particularly it has to describe exactly what they're looking for and where they're looking for it at. This is in the Bill of Rights. Every American citizen is granted these rights against their government. Article the 7th. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life and limb. So you cannot be tried for the same crime twice. In other words, if I'm accused of murdering Johnny and I am tried through the trial, and no matter what the outcome, whether I'm released or not, I can't be tried for murdering Johnny again. I've got a right against that. I've got a right to not be put in jeopardy regardless of time of war, unless I'm a soldier, which that changes, of course, the game. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. I'm going to repeat that again, and I want you to think about what's going on in today's world. And I'm going to repeat this right that we have as American citizens. All right. shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. My liberties cannot be taken away. I cannot be forced to do certain things like wear a piece of trash on my face. My rights shall not be stopped to fresh air. My God-given rights to breathe fresh air shall not be taken away without due process of law, which we have not been given. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So we don't have the government coming in yet stealing our land, but they are definitely trying. But we have a right against that. The Bill of Rights of the United States of America in our Constitution gives us the rights against that. Article the 8th. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witness against him. You have the right to confront your accuser in court, face to face, to have compulsory process for obtaining witness in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. You are granted these rights in this country: a right to a speedy trial, a right to have it where it was committed, a right to be informed of what you're being accused of, and to face your accuser head on. Article the 9th. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Common law is another thing we really need to dig into, and may have a series coming up within the Freedom Flame series just on common law. But returning to the last three articles here, Article the 10th, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. You shall not have an outrageously insane bail or excessive fines and cruel and unusual punishment, of course, and that is, I'm sure, very loosely. Torture is not allowed, even by the Bill of Rights. Article the 11th, the enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. I'm going to read that again. Just because it's written down in the Constitution, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights does not mean it can be construed to deny or disparage others that are retained by the people, other rights. And Article the 12th, the powers not delegated to the United States of the Constitution by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. We the people. Anything not mentioned here, any rights that we have that aren't specifically mentioned, are still retained by the people. That means they cannot take it from us without due process, ladies and gentlemen. And that is the Bill of Rights that we are all given freely as American citizens in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you go back and read it yourself. Get yourself a copy. It's not very long. Understand it, know it. It's going to become more and more important as we go along to know your rights, what you have the right to do. And this show has only begun to touch this topic. We've got so much more to go, ladies and gentlemen, and so little time to get there. And hopefully we eventually will. But that is not all the time that we have for this episode of the DarkWolf's Den Show Freedom Flame series, The Bill of Rights. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and this is the DarkWolf's Den Show. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Do you think the Bill of Rights is something that we need to be more concerned about knowing? Do you think we should know all the founding documents of this country to know as Americans what freedoms, liberties, and rights we are granted? Or do you think the socialists are right and we should just start destroying everything that we fought for so long, that all these veterans have fought for all their lives? And for many, many generations, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that's the smartest move. And I want to thank once again all the veterans who have fought for this country across time. Those who can hear my voice and those on the other side. Your duty, your service, and your love for your country is appreciated, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, what do you guys think, ladies and gentlemen? In the end, all you can do is look at the evidence, apply a little common sense, and you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right. That's it for this episode of the DarkWolf's Den Radio Show for Thursday, November the 11th, 2021, Veterans Day. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have kicked the weekend off right, at least I like to think so. But don't you worry, the weekend fun has only just begun. That's right, make sure you come back to the Rippin' Rabbit Hole YouTube channel, or Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, of course, tomorrow for Friday, November the 12th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as our buddy AJ the Rippin' Rabbit takes back to the airwaves with an all-new episode of the Rippin' Rabbit Hole Live Show. That's right, he's going to be talking Friday about transparency. It's much, much better to be transparent than opaque, right? And certain people, certain representatives that we have a duty to be transparent in the things that they do, and perhaps that is starting to wane in certain areas. I'm sure AJ will be discussing all that and more on Friday, November the 12th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then come on back on Saturday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as AJ the Rippin' Rabbit once again jumps in for another episode of the Rippin' Rabbit Hole Live Show as he takes to the airwaves to discuss perseverance. Don't give up. Never give up. It's when you are closest to winning that the worst battles are fought. Never give up, because you will not reap the rewards of winning if you do. And AJ will be discussing all that and more on Saturday, November the 13th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then on Sunday, November the 14th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, he comes back one more time, our buddy AJ does, to round the weekend out right with one last episode of the Rippin' Rabbit Hole Live Show for the weekend. He will be discussing preserving history. Definitely an incredible show that will be, because it seems like now that there are those that would like to not preserve our history and actually destroy our history and try to rewrite it. And it's something that is incredibly important, because if we do not know our history, we are bound to repeat it. And not all of it has been butterflies and rainbows, ladies and gentlemen. And he'll be discussing preserving history on Sunday, November the 14th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, on the Rippin' Rabbit Hole Live Show, exclusively on Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. Speaking of the Rippin' Rabbit Hole, make sure you guys hop on over to the rippinrabbithole.com. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. Over there, one of my, of course, favorite hangout places to go. You're going to find a plethora of interesting things over there. First, you're going to sign up for your VIP Backstage Pass, always free, and it's going to get you access to the entire rest of the site. And I promise you, it's absolutely 100% worth it. You will receive an email from us once a week, every week, with all the DarkWolf's Den shows and Rippin' Rabbit Holes that we will be discussing all weekend long, every weekend, from Wednesday to Sunday, of course. And after you've signed up for your Backstage Pass, you'll be able to do things like dropping down the rabbit hole. That is our exclusive social media section over here. It's got a wall of information. You've got looks like Cynthia Sue Larson has been over there signing up for some different groups. The Convention Estates group, the Be Well group by our buddy Champion Sports Nation over there, Raider Champion himself posted a couple of videos over there. So all kinds of fun stuff, as well as the Beat Eugene that is once a month, right, ladies and gentlemen? If you missed the Beat Eugene last Sunday, you can definitely go back and watch the on-demand section of the website under the Listen Live tab. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, nobody was able to beat Eugene this time. He squared it out right at the end. He squeezed out the victory and was able to win. But congratulations to all those that played the Beat Eugene last Sunday. Myself, I was way down the list. I think I came in like 8th place or something. But at least I tried, right? And you got to be over on the Rippin' Rabbit Hole to know when we're going live. To get our schedules, just click on the Listen Live button. Once again, click on the On Air. You'll get our schedules for the whole weekend, so you'll know when those shows like Beat Eugene are coming up, ladies and gentlemen. And there is just so much more over here. The 24/7 Backstage Lounge, where I like to hang out, where I'll be right after the show. You can access that freely if you've got that VIP Backstage Pass. Just click on the Backstage 24/7 Lounge. Come on in and join the fun, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of fun, I'm going to go hop over and have some fun right now. So my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and you're listening to the DarkWolf's Den Radio Show exclusively on Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. On behalf of AJ the Rippin' Rabbit, Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, Walt House, everybody involved in Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, our amazing mod team over on the YouTube channels, as well as Tom Bayless and Red Shed Studios for this amazing music that we're listening to, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all these folks, and a special thank you to all the veterans of this country. My name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And remember, until next time, folks, stay awake, but dare to dream. Good night, everybody. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
I'm lost and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here. 'Cause no one's ever
Thank you, Brandon, for the worst gas prices ever, the worst taxes ever, the worst job any president's ever done. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. That's right.
What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays.
Thank you, Brandon, for ruining what is America, for trying to take away our freedoms, for stomping on the Bill of Rights. Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her?
I will say thank you, Brandon, for being the best gun salesman in all of this country. The numbers have risen multitudes. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. May I suggest stocking up on yours today? Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Thank you, Brandon, definitely, for being the absolute worst joke I've ever seen in a politician and letting the people know just how bad a choice that they made, if they did at all. Let's go, Brandon. Thanks for trying to take away our livelihoods. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Thank you, Brandon. At least now, a lot more of the world's able to see. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Good night, everybody. Happy Veterans Day. Top hats off to everyone who served this country.